This is Kuldrin's Krypt, Season 1, Episode 5, for December 23rd, 2016.
Welcome. Welcome to my dungeon.
Welcome to Kuldrin's Krypt. I'm your host, Master Kuldrin. If you're new to the show, this is a place to dispel myths, get rid of stereotypes, and answer your questions about BDSM. You can call in at 865-268-4005 to leave your questions or visit the Krypt at kuldrinskrypt.com. Today we're going to take a look at what it is to be a switch. Before we actually get into that, I would like to say for all of you Android users, if you go to the Play Store, do a search for Kuldrin's Krypt. That is apostrophe S, Kuldrin, Kuldrin apostrophe S, Krypt, just like the show title. You will find my app there for you iOS users. The iPhone app should be available within the next 2 to 3 weeks. It takes them a little bit longer to approve it. But I will have that for you shortly. To get into what it is to be a switch, for me, this can be a little bit difficult of a topic to talk about because it is how I started out. Found that it is not at all what I am, but that's common with a lot of people. They're new to it. Well, pre 50 Shades, it was common. Now, a lot of women just jump straight into the submissive role. A lot of men jump straight into the dominant role, when in fact, that may not be the role for you at all, and it may sour the entire BDSM scene for you once you're taking on a role that you are not built for. So for those of you who are trying it and you're not quite getting out of it what you want, there are many reasons for that. But this may be one of them. It might be that you are in a submissive role and you are not a submissive, or you're in a dominant role and you're not a dominant. Or you may be a switch, so you're not feeling fulfilled. Only half of your needs are being met. So that kind of gives a prelude to what it is to be a switch. First, let me hit those rules to love by as I do every episode. Number 1, safe, sane, consensual, and informed. And that is complete, open, and honest communication. That informed consent goes into everything from what you like and don't like to what diseases you do and don't have, whether you're partnered with someone else, whatever that may be. The kinky code: knowledge, no intolerance, kindness, and integrity. And then that quote by Paul Young: submission is not about authority. It is not about obedience. It is about a relationship of love and respect. So keep that in mind. All right. So the switch. What is a switch? Really simple. Someone who can play either role and enjoys either role. And I say either, but there's actually 4 roles there. Yes, there's dominance and submission, but there's also top and bottom. And we've touched on that a few times, and this is the part where I say, if you have not gone back to the first episode and started there, please do that. This is a progressive series, so there are things that I have talked about there that have led to this point. With a switch and the different roles, you have dom and sub, which is psychological. That is the psychological DS relationship, or even into the BDSM scene, the discipline that can be psychological. It's not always physical, but when it is physical, that is top and bottom. So the top is the person who is doing the disciplining, the disciplinarian, and the bottom is the one receiving this. So you do have multiple types of switches. They're psychological and physical. Some people play both sides of that, and others just lean more toward one. As far as DS goes, I am absolutely 100% dominant. I do not psychologically submit to anyone. It's not in me. As far as play goes, I do like pain. I am a sadist, but there are certain types, and it's very, very specific types of pain. So that can come into play. But as far as like an entire scene designed to satisfy that need for me, that's only going to last a few minutes, and it's completely non-sexual. Like I said, it goes very quickly. It's typically either belting or flogging, and that's on the back, not anywhere else. I'm just not into it. Like I said, it's very quick. I do enjoy that from time to time. It's not very often, but I'm certainly not opposed to it, but I will not be bound for that in any way. If that is something that I'm receiving, if someone that I trust wants to flog me or something of that nature on the back, I'm okay with that. I will self-restrain against the wall. And it's not that I'm just okay with that. It's not, okay, I'll do it. I do enjoy it. I'd enjoy it a great bit. But there again, it's not something it's going to occur very often. In looking at this and thinking about the switches that I've known and my personal experience back 20 years ago with it, I decided that I would go to the internet for some research on this. And that's because I kind of wanted to find a way to easily and quickly combine all the information into one quick blurb. Otherwise, this is a topic that could be talked about for hours and hours, like most of them. And at this point in the podcast, I'm still trying to keep these, 30 to 45 minutes long and not really go into massive amounts of detail. Just give you enough to where it's something that interests you and you really want to research it, then you're going to look into the books and find it for yourself, or send me questions, or enter into the community on FetLife. Go to local munches or gatherings and really find that information for yourself. And again, if you have any questions, 865-268-4005, or you can email me, sir@kuldrinscrypt.com. The old email address I used is still in effect. It's masterkuldrin@gmail.com. So either one of those. All right. So one of the sites that I found that gives a really good guide, it's submissiveguide.com, not the submissive, just submissiveguide.com/encyclopedia/switch. And I had summed up what I had, compared it to this. This gives such brief information about it, and there are points that I'm going to touch on, but this is pretty much taken directly from that website. In BDSM, a switch is someone who participates in S&M activities as both top and a bottom, or possibly in a DES activity as both a dominant and a submissive, just as I said earlier. A switch will be the top in some occasions and the bottom in others, and not necessarily with the same partner. Switching within a scene or even during a scene is very rare. And that's something that a lot of people that I've talked to recently who are fairly new have had a lot of questions about. Well, I enjoy administering pain. I enjoy receiving pain. So how would that work in a scene? Well, it can work however you want it to, as long as it works with your play partner or your scene partner. However, because of the headspace that you get into, and we're really going to get into that. I believe I've got that scheduled for either next week or the week after. You will find that it's the headspace that is really going to prevent you from switching back and forth in roles in the middle of a scene. That, and it just typically throws off the flow of the scene to do that. Do keep that in mind. It is done. And it is done well. I've witnessed it as something that has occurred, and it was a beautiful transition. But more times than not, it's kind of a blunder and it's awkward. If that's something that you're going to do, as always, with the first rule, keep it safe, sane, consensual, and informed. Talk about it. Have it planned out, and you'll enjoy it a lot more. So back to this submissive guide. Switches are known to get a negative reaction from some purists who believe you can't be a switch and that these individuals just can't make up their minds. This is far from the truth. Switches are not people who can't make up their minds, and it's so rare in our community that you will receive judgment, and it's ironic that that's one of the places where the judgment can come from by some of the very old school, like I said, purists. It's difficult to define exactly who is a switch. There are many heated debates about switches on BDSM forums. I've seen these. However, it is agreed upon that a switch is someone who can either top or bottom, and not necessarily the same person, or one who can both dominate and submit. And that is more of the common case. With my DS relationship, my former DS relationship, she was dome. She had several slaves, but we were definitely not in a switch position. Now, she did a whole lot of topping from the bottom, to which I had to collar on, but she was not used to submitting. But she felt submissive toward me, and she wanted to do that because she had always been such a dominant person in her life. That was really one of her secret, deep, dark dreams, is to be able to fully submit to somebody. And it worked for a while. But as I was saying, that's typically the case. I mean, there's no way we would ever switch. And to fulfill her need to be dominant or to be a top, that's what she had her slaves for, which was kind of cool. And sometimes it works this way, sometimes it does not. But in the situation that we were in, as the dominant to her slaves dominant, then I had rule and authority over them as well, to certain degrees. Now, it got tricky in some ways to respect her as their dominant, because she was such a submissive to me. But I always kept it in the back of my mind. Okay, that's her slave, and it can kind of muddy the waters in having them do things. And there were times when she would turn to me and say, you know what, you, sir, would you like to punish them for whatever action? And it was very interesting to actually go to a check-in with that and talk to her person to person and not dominant to submissive, and discuss the authority to which I would have over them, and then also discuss it with them, with the slaves, not just her, because we're people. It's DS, it's BDSM, but they were still a person, and they had to have informed consent as to my control. And they were of the mindset it pleased the mistress, therefore they consented to it. It was a very, very involved dynamic, and I in no way encourage anyone new to this to become involved in that type of dynamic. In fact, I highly encourage you to steer very clear of it if it comes around, because it's so incredibly complicated. With these switches and the different aspects of it, with the psychological and the physical, and like I said, you can have both. If you are a submissive bottom, then you are going to be experiencing the domination on a psychological level and on a physical level. But you might be a submissive psychologically, and even in a relationship that has minimum punishment. And that's such a big misconception, that in DS, not every punishment is a flogging session or something like that. I mean, I know a lot of submissives that are in no way masochists when it comes to physical pain. That's why they just refer to themselves as a submissive and are quick to point out, I'm not a bottom. I'm not a top either, but I'm not a bottom. So they don't want to give pain. They don't want to receive pain. Their punishments may be taking away their markers if they're a baby girl, or their favorite